Hey everybody, I have a little bit of a follow-up for the last video I made, the homemade lubricants, or mixing of different lubricants. We did a couple different batches of different lubricants here. We did one batch, an extra batch of marble mystery oil and high temperature red grease. We did a batch of petroleum jelly, which is like a Vaseline, and mineral oil. And then we refilled that batch that we did last time of the SAE 30 and regular grease. It was just a little bit too thick for what I wanted to use it for, so we went back and we added a little bit more oil. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what you would use each of these lubricants for. Okay, the first lubricant we're going to demonstrate is the regular one we made last week, which is the SAE 30 mixed with the regular grease. Now, anytime you have a Acme thread or something like this, this is a perfect time to use this oil. You can see how it's thick, yet it flows. And then the same, you put a little bit on the rail here. This I'm using on obviously my vise, put a little bit on the rail. Now, because it flows and because it's a little bit thick, when you put it on here and then you run the vise back and forth a few times, what will happen is the oil will get into the threads, into the grooves, and you won't have a problem. Now, we'll go back, and you'll see from just running it back and forth, separates it nicely. Now you have a coated Acme thread all through. This stuff is great for that because it won't evaporate, it won't dry off, it stays on. Really good stuff to use. Again, another Acme style thread. When you use these regular C-clamps, a little drop in here where you have the pad. There's a little ball in there, a retention ball, and that will lubricate that. And then a little drop on the threads here, and you don't have to overdo it, but a little drop here of this oil on that thread. And when you back it up, it will coat the threads, and a little bit will do. And then when you go forward, you can see what happens. It's all coated on there. And you could do that through the whole threads. But this stuff is great for any kind of pressure or anywhere you have rubbing or anything, or anytime you have anything that use threads for a clamp, that's the oil to use. Let's go to a next one. The next homemade lubricant we did was the marble mystery oil and red grease. This is the consistency we did it to. We used about a half a tub of the grease, and then we did that's a pint, so we did a little bit more, about a pint and a half of marble mystery oil. And what this is good for, because the marble mystery oil has cleaning properties and also the grease has high pressure lube properties. Anytime you have tools like shears or something like that, if you take this marble mystery oil and you this grease mixture and put it in to the shear area, you'll get a cleaning action. Plus, again, with the grease, it won't get too much runoff. It's not like using regular oil. It will stick around. And you would just work that in, and then eventually you could take a cloth and wipe it off. And what happens is it will clean itself out. That's like a transmission fluid, has that same properties, where it's a cleaner. Again, here's a compound shears, older compound shears, and a little drop anywhere where there's high pressure, work it in. And again, the fact that there's grease in here will let it stick around and it won't run off or evaporate, so it'll be around for a very long time. Anywhere there's movement, a little drop in there, work it through. You can see how easy this works. Really good. I'm just running this through, the first batch I ever made of this, but the properties of these two ingredients alone, it has to work good, because the red grease is great, and so is the marble mystery oil. And you can see that it's not going to evaporate. It leaves a little film in there, and really nice. Let's go to the third one. Okay, the third and final lubricant I'm pretty proud of, because this one here I've been thinking about for a while. Basically, it's petroleum jelly and mineral oil. Just any dollar store petroleum jelly, which is like a Vaseline. I took about a half a tub of that, and I mixed a whole bottle of mineral oil. And this one here is about 16 fluid ounces. So you don't need a lot to thicken it up. But again, you want it to stay on. You want it to have principles that it won't evaporate. This here, I put it into a nice goldenrod container. But by taking this here, what we just did, now this becomes a non-toxic tool protector. Now you could see the viscosity of this, and it's a little thicker than mineral oil. It's not dripping off like you see. It's not as light as mineral oil would be. But what's nice about this, if you have any kind of tools where you're upstate or you have a garage or something that you keep your your tools in. This is a perfect thing to, if you're not going to be up there all the time, you have a high humidity situation, a basement or something, you wipe your tools down with this formula, so to speak, you know, especially tools that are, you know, like a steel that's not coated, not painted. You wipe it down with this, and then you wipe it off lightly with a one of these blue shop towels. Now that will leave a coating on it that will protect it from the normal elements, the garage grunge that you would get, or the damp location in the basement. This will protect it from rust because there's enough that stays on there, but it doesn't give a greasy feeling when you have to use it. You're not wiping it down with grease, you're not wiping it down. The mineral oil will just evaporate and dry off eventually, which is still good. But the nice thing about this, it's non-toxic. You don't have to worry about getting it on your hands. The only thing that can happen is it'll soften up maybe some of your calluses. But by wiping this down, you can see it takes off some of the dirt, but it will leave a nice coating on here. And the next time you go to use it, these tools will be ready to go and not rusted up. So really good to use. You can use this on anything that you want to wipe down, crowbars, anything you don't want to get rusted up. So those are 3 lubricants, and maybe you can use one of them. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Take care. Have a good day.